Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Lights Out with Ish and Eve. I'm Ish and this is Eve, and we are back from opposite sides of the world. This time you have successfully moved to the UK. Congrats.
I have.
How
Thank you.
how has it been? How has it been? Little life update.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's actually been super easy, like no issues at all. House is great, housemates are great. The weather's been good. I've been in the sun.
Girl, it has been freezing here, so I am
Yeah.
very jealous. But
Yes, well,
Love that
once
for you.
it gets to winter here, I will not be so happy. But so far, so good. Zero complaints. I watched the race at 7 p.m. Got a little
So good.
takeaway, a little glass of wine, watched my fucking race. I've already dragged one of my housemates into watching it with me.
Love.
So we're making an F1 household. It will happen at some point. If they want it to. I don't really care. I was like, oh, I'll watch in my room if I'm going to piss you off in the living room. I don't care. I'll watch wherever. They're like, no, what the fuck? We'll join. So far, so good. Yeah,
Love
absolutely
her.
no complaints. Thank you to everyone who was so nice about it as well last episode. I got so many nice comments being like, congrats,
yeah.
have fun, be safe. So that was really nice.
cute.
So thanks everyone. On the racing side of things, less slaying.
Yeah, it was, well, especially for you.
Yeah.
It was not a great day to be a McLaren fan, particularly not a great day to be a Lando fan. It was, but I mean,
It was
on
awful.
the whole, it
I
was
hated
just a
it.
very like slow burner race, you know?
It was a
Like,
boring race.
Yeah, it did not hit.
You could come out and say it. It was a fucking boring race.
Yeah, last 10 laps were cool with Oscar and
I disagree entirely. I would have preferred it stay boring.
True.
I was like hoping something that would happen, and then that happened, and I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm okay with boring.
Would have been fine.
Would have been fine.
Valid. But for everyone that was not a Lando fan, it was great to see the McLarens go wheel to wheel. Finally, we got their them actually racing, and I didn't know if it was going to happen because like they were both on different strategies, and then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like is Lando's catching Oscar, and they're just going to like pit Oscar out of the way, and then like they're not actually going to like catch each other.
Yeah, and also like I didn't think anything was gonna happen like once Oscar got back in DRS of Kimi. Like
Yeah.
I was kind of like those few laps where Oscar was out of DRS of Kimi and Lando had DRS on Oscar. I was like, ooh, like I was like very confident that it would be okay, and he would just pass him. Like I thought he would pass him because he was the faster car at the time.
Yeah.
But then when they were just both like banging it down the straight, both with their DRS open, I was like, this is not good. I was like, this is not good.
I know. It was a little bit inevitable, but
I know, and
anyway.
Lando literally said it before the weekend. He was like, oh, it's when, not if. And then it literally happened this weekend. And I was like,
know.
Lando.
Even
But
Zach
I'm
Brown has
like-
been like, oh yeah, they'll come together at some point. Like,
Yeah, and I think although I hated it and although it ended in a Lando DNF, it could have been so much worse. I kind of am okay with it because I'm not okay with it. But like, if it's going to happen, I'm okay with it happening like this because it's clear that it was Lando's fault. There's no fallout. Like, they're not going to like be beefing about it. Like, it's Lando's fault. He owned up to it immediately, apologized to everyone.
yeah.
Like, it's not going to be like a he said, I'm in the right, he's in the wrong, like, thing where they'll, like a Max and George situation where they might, like, fight each other harder now.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't think there's going to be any...
No.
I really hope there's not going to be too much teammate fallout because of it.
Yeah,
because it's
I don't
very
think there'll be
clear.
any.
No, like, it's very clear that Lando is at fault and he owned it immediately. So there's, like, There's no
beef.
Yeah. So I'm like, and Oscar still finished the race. Like, it didn't take them both out. It wasn't for the race lead.
Yes, that was big.
And yeah, wasn't for the race lead. Didn't take both cars out. And there's not going to be like a drama around it. So if it was going to happen, I'm happy that it would happen like that. Like, out of all possible teammate crush circumstances,
Yes.
I'm okay with this one.
So fair.
Like, I'd rather none,
Yes.
obviously.
But if it had to happen, this is like kind of okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyways.
I guess before we get into everything that happened over the weekend, one of the sort of stories coming into the weekend was rumours about Fred Vassar getting replaced, which were like, I think are extremely unfounded. I think it was the Italian media kind of like hitting at Fred a little
Off
bit.
with his head.
Yeah, and I think it's just like, first of all, are they not second in the championship? Like, what are you complaining about? The fact, like, wild. I mean, obviously they were predicted to kind of
Fight
do
for
well, this year. But given that that's completely not the case,
Are
like,
they still second?
is
I haven't looked at the
incredible.
constructors since.
I think they are.
Because Mercedes
they
would
are.
have got a fat stack of points.
Yeah, I know. I thought that when they let me have a look actually. Because I thought that when the race finished, I was like, oh, a Ferrari actually still going to be
Second.
second? No, I lie. Oh, Mercedes is second
Yeah, I was
now.
like, surely because they just took second. Surely they're not ahead by
Yeah.
that much and that massive stack of points
True.
from Mercedes.
That's not
Which,
true.
by the way, slay to
I
Mercedes.
mean, yes. Mercedes had an excellent weekend. There were big winners and there were big losers from this
Yeah.
weekend, and Mercedes was
Yes.
definitely on the big winners front. But coming back to
Absolutely.
Fred, like,
Yes.
I think it's so silly that, like, I don't know, if you just keep switching things out too quickly, you're never going to find out what's wrong. And I think you can look at almost any, like, football team to, like, learn that just switching out the manager or the principal is, like, is so rarely going to be the solution. Like,
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous.
I'm just curious about what the fuck you know about football.
Little bits. Not AFL footy. Like soccer football.
No, soccer football.
Yeah.
Football. I'm in the UK
Football.
now. I have to watch my mouth.
You have to call it football. True. If you say soccer,
I do
you'll
have to
get
call it football.
mugged.
But I also have to specify because I'm saying like I'm watching the footy, I'm watching the football, I'm not watching the soccer.
True. Do they call
watching the
football footy though over there?
No,
Yeah.
but I feel like if I say footy, that kind of indicates that it's Australian.
Yes.
But it's not rugby. Because if I was watching NRL, I would just say I'm watching rugby.
Yes. Because that's
But I'm
the
not
thing
watching
there.
rugby.
True.
Yeah. I'm watching AFL, but no one knows what that is. Such a non-problem, but
Yeah. Anyway.
anyways.
Shall we get
Yeah,
into the
honestly-
weekend? Was there anything else?
Yeah, another bit of a piece of not news so much, but something that's been going on in the Red Bull Academy situation is Arvid Lindblad has been granted a super license early.
Yes.
He's
I did
17
hear
and he's been
that.
granted a super license. I don't think people were then speculating like, is it for if they want to swap out some drivers again, like put
Yeah.
Hadjar in the Red Bull and drop Yuki or Liam entirely? But they're not going to do that. I just think that
don't
they're
think
getting
so.
Arvid Lindblad the super license so they can whack him in a couple of FP1 sessions. Because people were also saying like, oh, is it for when Max gets a race ban that they can then put like Yuki, not Yuki, Liam or Isaac in the Red Bull if Max gets a race
Yeah.
ban and then Lindblad can race the RB, which
True.
could be. But I think they're just doing it so he can do some FP1 sessions because he is slaying the game in F2. So
Yeah. I completely agree. I don't think they're switching their drivers out again. So,
they can't. Like, they just
Yeah.
look like idiots.
agreed. Yes, but very interesting.
and also-
We'll see.
Yeah, Lance Stroll is back after
Yes.
his wrist injury.
You
but
wouldn't know
he was
it with how he
really-
raced.
But also, like, same old again. He started the season just, like, with a couple of really good results, and I was like, whoa, is he here? Has he turned up finally? It's gone back to Alonso finishing 12 places up the road from him. But it's fine. What else was I going to say on that? Yeah, he was, like, very secretive when asked about it, which, like,
Yeah, weird.
was, like... And he still had tape on it.
Yeah, well, he was
So
like
there's
keeping his like
clearly-
wrist in his like pocket during a lot of the like, you know, Thursday
Press
media
conferences.
sessions, and like, yeah, it was just a little bit bizarre. Like,
Yeah, but also, like, if he doesn't need to tell you, he could just be like, yeah, my
No.
wrist is sore. But But he was like, yeah, my medical history is private. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I was like, okay. it's a
Just
bit
say,
much.
I'm here, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
I'm
little
here, I'm
random.
good to race. That's
Also,
enough.
just like weird that he was still very like subdued in front of the media, even at his home race. Like, what
He's
are you
just
doing
always
this for,
like
dude?
that. I know.
I know, but at your
and I kind of
home
feel for
race, like,
him.
come on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, have some
Give
fun.
us something. Yeah,
Have some fun. It's your home race. Enjoy it.
I know.
But anyways,
Anyways,
I think that was it of the
yeah,
pre-race.
I think so.
stuff.
So let's get into practice. And FP1,
Yes.
the weekend started off so strong for me.
Binned it like 10 minutes in.
Yeah, Charles put himself in the wall. He like locked up, ran wide, basically had no grip, and the crash was bad. It was a weird place to
It was
crash, and
really
it was
weird.
a bad crash.
'Cause
Like
he
his
hit the
car
inside.
got destroyed.
He hit the front because he hit the front end and the back end.
Yeah,
And then he hit the front end on the other side too. Like he hit
Yeah.
the front and back on the inside curb, which spat him into the outside wall, and he hit the front and back, I think, again on the other side.
Yeah.
So I think I might be being dramatic, but I think he hit all four corners of his car.
probably because it was so like shredded up that he was then unable
Yeah.
to participate in FP2.
And it was just a weird crash too. Like the commentators were saying, like someone of his experience shouldn't be crashing like that. Like
Yeah, it was
he
bizarre.
kind of wasn't going to make the corner, but then like didn't just take the escape road. Like he still tried to make the corner,
Yeah,
but
it was
he kind of like
random.
half went, he instead of like just going straight and cutting the corner or backing off the lap completely and just slowing down, he kind of got stuck between the two and binned it.
Yeah, it was really bizarre.
It was.
And then not only that, Lewis had like a spin, and I was just like, great, we're
Yeah.
doing so well. Yay, Ferrari, can't
Yay.
wait.
Good job, Ferrari. Well
Clearly,
done.
you like Ferrari and Canada just do not go together.
Not friends.
Uh,
Colapinto also spun really strangely.
he did. There
Like,
were
and
a
he did
bunch
it
of
again?
drivers. Yeah,
He did it again in FP2.
he
did
did.
the same
yeah.
spin.
I mean, I think because it's a temporary track, right? So like all the rubbering in.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It
But-
looks really narrow, but it doesn't look like a street circuit.
I know, but I think I heard the commentator saying it was a temporary track.
Okay.
So I think like all the the roads obviously just like needed
Yeah.
rubbering in as well, which is why I think a lot of them had like struggles with the grip because there was so
Yeah.
many spins
Yeah.
and offs like
Slides
throughout all the
and
practice
people going
sessions.
off chicanes and yeah.
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 But Williams were looking fabulous
So fast.
in FP1. They finished P2 and P3. And I was like,
Yes.
all right, let's go. Williams podium. I'm here for it.
Did not quite eventuate, but
not quite eventuate.
yeah, they were looking fast.
Yes.
And I was
they
like,
were.
Slay?
Mm-hmm.
And McLaren also were looking not fast.
Yeah.
And it just was not their track. Like, they
know.
just were not,
Kind
like,
of
but it was
weird.
weird. Like, they were there, and then they weren't, and then they were, and then they weren't.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on, guys?
I know.
What's
it was
happening?
very strange. Mercedes, on the
Yeah.
other hand, looking very consistent.
Oh my God,
Throughout.
they were looking so fast.
Yeah. So I think, again, like the whole, like Mercedes do well in colder climates thing.
Gone.
Yeah, like, well, no, like, I think it was still pretty, it was warmer than they were expecting, but I think it was still fairly
Yeah.
cool. So I think, like,
But I think
Yeah.
in the race, they said that the track temperature did get up to 50 degrees. Like, the race day was quite hot.
yes.
Like,
it
much
did.
hotter than normal in Canada. But
Yeah,
you're
it
right. I
was.
didn't actually think that much hotter in Canada isn't necessarily hot.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think that was kind of FP1. And then
Yeah.
FP2, Lance Stroll was in the wall kind of early on and kind of banged up his front wheel and like front suspension pretty bad, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were just more like slips and spins and things like that. But I don't think there was anything particularly noteworthy in FP2.
No. There was just that moment of like when Franco spun and Gasly was coming out of the pit lane and they like passed each other facing the wrong direction.
Like, what are you doing here?
Gasly's like, hello, what the fuck are you doing? The wrong way around the track, bestie. So that was just kind of funny. And also McLaren were like testing front wings in FP2.
Yeah.
Like they brought a new front wing like as an upgrade and then were running like, I can't remember who had which one, but they were running like one front wing and the other front wing, and then they like swapped them over, and then they like went back to the old one, and then they were like, we were actually just testing it. We weren't actually going to run it. It's not actually an upgrade. We were just trying it out. I was like, oh.
Okay.
So what's that? And like, then I think they were like, well, we might still use it. I don't actually know whether they did use it or not in the end.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
We weren't fast, so.
Yeah. Not great. But anyways, then FP3, we had a few people tap the Wall of Champions, including Oscar.
Yes.
Very lovely little omen.
And good timing.
He did get a bit of damage, on the rear of his car, which was not great. But
he had a puncture, no?
Yeah, he got a puncture, and I think he damaged his rear wing a bit. But Nico, like, spun his car around, and it just, like, grazed the wall. So he was
I don't know how he got away with that.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Like, how did he get away with that? And have you seen the video of Davide Valsecchi, like, sitting right behind the barrier, and he's like...
Yeah.
He's like... First of all,
I mean, him. That would be quite terrifying.
Yeah.
Having an F1 car just, like, spinning full pelt, like, right where you're standing, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, obviously there's a barrier there, but your brain is going to be like, panic.
Yeah, literally. It's like, I'm in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, Ollie Behrman was another one to hit the wall.
Yeah.
And he had quite a big smack into it. Like, I don't know how he hit it that hard and didn't get at least a puncture.
I know.
Like, that was quite a big smack.
It was, yeah.
It was like, boom, and then just bounced off it. And I was like, how have you done that?
I know. So then, I don't know if I missed it. There was a red flag.
There was a red flag.
Yes. What happened?
I also don't have on my notes what the red flag was for.
Yeah. I don't know why there was... So I'm going to be honest, I just watched the highlights of FP3.
Well, it's in the middle of the night for you, so yeah.
I know. But I was like, what happened? But then obviously there was a red flag because Yuki got a 10-place penalty, which is
overtaking
crazy.
Oscar.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing what happened to Ollie a couple of weeks ago with the 10-place grid penalty for overtaking under red flags.
I know.
But it was a different kind of situation where the one with Ollie was like really unlucky because he was going too fast. That literally the safest thing to do was to overtake, like with the timing. But the Yuki one, the red flag was like, he was on like the other side of the track when the red flag came, and the only reason he drove past Oscar is because Oscar was limping around because he had the damage from hitting the wall. So Oscar was like crawling back to the pits, and then Yuki went past him. So it's kind of like, I think the case that Red Bull would have argued, and obviously they didn't get away with arguing the case, but I think they would have argued like, what, are we just going to like go 2 miles per hour behind this car with a puncture, and then everyone's going to end up in a little train just following Oscar back to the pits because no one can overtake. So, but obviously he got the grid penalty.
He did.
Which is just not what he needs.
Not what he needs at all.
And he had like an okay quali as well.
He did, yeah. Like
he had a pretty good quali, I think, compared to how he has been in the past in that Red Bull.
Yeah. Well, he qualified P11, so like you know, like that's reasonable.
Better than he's been doing.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I don't know. I think like with all the spins and slides and all that sort of stuff, the thing that I found really interesting as well was like who had what in terms of like tires left over after practice, because like I don't know. I think like you'd be marking them all up, and you know, with all the slides, you'd be putting flat spots and stuff in them. So
and everyone was mainly just running soft. Like so many people were just burning through their soft allocation, and that kind of was like, are we running mediums in quali? Which turned out to be probably the good move.
Yeah, well, exactly.
'Cause
Like, I think
the
those
medium seemed
C6s...
faster.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think those C6s were just... they're just too soft to really do anything with race-wise.
And I think,
So, you just
yeah,
have
and
to
I
use
think
them
as
up.
well, it probably, Pirelli might have been a bit fucked by the fact that it was hotter than they were expecting it to be.
Yeah.
Like,
correct.
they were probably like, oh no, C6 is good for Canada, like, with the track temperatures and stuff, it won't be, like, too high deg.
Yeah.
But,
It was. I know.
yeah.
But
They were
to be
not
fair, like, I
particularly
love it.
slaying.
I think it's great that, like, they're all forced to do, like, 2 stops now, and the 1 stops just aren't working because they don't have enough tyres to, like, make
Well,
a
some
1
people
stop
one
work.
stopped it. Carlos and Ocon.
They did,
I
which
think one
was
stopped it.
incredible. They basically drove the whole race on, like, their first set of
They
hards.
stopped in, like, the last 15 laps as well.
Yeah.
Like, they stopped, like, right at the end.
I know.
I was like, what the helly?
I was like, how did you do that?
Literally.
Good.
Good for them, though.
Yeah, for real. But I think that's practice, unless you had anything else to talk about.
Yeah,
Okay, so quali.
qualifying.
Yeah, so in Q1, we had Gasly, Lawson, Stroll, Sainz, and Bortoletto eliminated.
Gasly did not have a good time. I'm not expecting him in P20.
No, that was quite shocking.
Yeah. But obviously the big one that we lost there was Carlos because
Yes.
he missed out by like, what was it, like 400ths or something? And he was impeded. So
Yeah,
it's
and it
pretty
was-
safe to say
Yeah,
he would have been through. I'd
For
say.
sure.
Like, it's pretty safe to say he missed out by this much and he was impeded by this much.
I know. It was bad impeding too. Like, that was bad from VCarb telling...
So bad. Because
Hadjar
they
that-
told him he aborted the lap.
Yeah. And, like, I'm just like, on what planet right in the last 2 minutes of a quali session is anyone realistically aborting their lap? And even if they are, as if you wouldn't just, be safe and say that they're still on a flying lap if you're on a slow lap. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
It's kind of like what happened in Monaco with Hamilton and Verstappen.
Yeah.
Like, it's very similar.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's not on a fast lap. Oh,
I know.
well, now
I
he'll
know.
penalty.
And there were plenty of people that, like, argued that, Hadjar should get, like, a steeper penalty. And I think, like, the problem with that is, like, you just open up such a kettle of, like, fish of, like, you can't take the consequences into account. And, like, that 3 places is the penalty for impeding, bottom line. Like,
Yeah.
it sucks that it so heavily impacted Carlos's weekend, but them's the rules.
Yeah, like when you again compare it to the Verstappen-Hamilton one, it's like, yes, he did impede, but Max was ultimately unaffected by it.
Yeah.
Whereas Carlos was very heavily affected by it. Because they were
Exactly.
looking really fast over the weekend too. So, like, double Williams points was on
I know.
at that point.
And then speaking of Williams' bad luck, Alex Albon's car just exploded, basically. The whole
He was like, "See
side
ya."
of the car, like the whole engine cover, just see ya.
Gone.
Yeah,
See you
done for
later.
the day. Like,
I saw a meme and it was just like someone with a few screws in their hand being like, just found these in the Williams garage. Do you think it's important?
well, the crazy part
like-
to me is like, and Ted Kravitz was talking about this, like, that, like, all they're gonna do is tape it down. And I'm like, in maybe the most technologically advanced sport in the world, you're telling me that this car is held together by duct tape?
Well, remember last year we saw them literally duct taping someone's car together.
I know. I think it
Colapinto's
was a
car
Williams as
last year, they
well.
were duct tape. Yeah, it was. It was. Because at the end
Oh.
of last year, Colapinto and Albon could not stop smashing their cars to pieces
Yeah. And
between their fault and others.
literally.
Like, they were just crashing
I
every
know.
day, basically.
And I mean, incredible work by the Williams team to get that car back out. Like, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, I just thought that was so funny. Like, the
It
fact that they were
was.
like, and let's just tape it back up and we're good to go.
Just stick her back on.
Because it was like ripped. Like, you could see the jagged edges of like the carbon fiber. Like, it's not like a whole chunk had just like fallen off. Like,
No.
the metal had torn. Like,
Yeah.
it was insane. Because I think they were saying, like, air or whatever just got under the cover.
Yeah.
And basically
And it
just
flipped up. Yeah.
But wild.
Crazy. And yeah, as you said, like, such a good job from Williams Mechanics to get that back together. Because he was, like, ultimately unaffected by it as well.
Totally.
Like, he just continued on his quali.
Yeah, I know.
Because I thought, because he was, at the time that happened, he was in the drop zone. And I was like, he's in fucking danger.
Yeah.
If they can't get that fixed. Because there was only like 5 minutes of the session left.
Yeah.
So I was like, if they can't get it fixed and send him back out for another lap, he's done
See you later. I know, but I was very impressed. So, slay to the Williams mechanics. Then I think that was kind of it for Q1. Unless you had anything else?
Yeah.
Q2, we had Ocon, Behrman, Hulkenberg, Colapinto, and Yuki eliminated.
Good job from
absolutely
Colapinto.
nowhere. Great job for
Yeah.
Colapinto.
Really good job.
Who, like, especially with Gasly in last, so who knows what that's about. But, like, especially with the penalties that Yuki and then Hadjar got for impeding Carlos, like, Colapinto lined up 10th. How good.
Yeah. Perfect.
So we love that. But yeah, Haas were just nowhere.
No. I mean, yeah, happens.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't really be too shocked by that.
Yeah. And then...
They're just, like, really up and down.
I know.
Haas.
I know. I don't really know what to make
Was
of
their
them.
200th race? Good
I
job.
did hear that.
Well done.
Yeah. Very
Well done,
cool.
Haas. 200 races.
Nice. Yeah.
Both of your drivers have been there for 10 seconds, but...
Yeah. That's good. And then there was an issue with George and Yuki in the pit lane. So, like, it sort of looked like as they were all coming, or as a few of them were coming out, like, Yuki was exiting the pit lane, but he was, like, really slow to the point that, like, it looked like he was having an issue. So George, like, went around him and then, you know, took off. Which obviously, like, is usually a penalty unless the car is, like, broken down. And I think, like, basically Mercedes successfully argued that, like, Yuki, for all intents and purposes, was going so slowly it looked like he had broken down. But, yeah, it was sort of up in the air as to whether George was going to get a penalty for a second there. But and not the first time for the weekend that it was up in the air whether George Russell was going to get a penalty.
Yeah. I swear to God, if that had happened, I would have been like, bro, like, how many wins are you going to take away from this man?
Yeah, honestly.
Like, another one. Like, he doesn't get that many. Let a man live.
Yeah, honestly. I agree.
Anyways.
But anyway, that was kind of Q2. Q3.
Yeah.
Wasn't
a particularly good time.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, it started good. Because, like, where they were all doing their first fast laps, and Oscar set a time that was, like, half a second faster than Charles, who was in P1 at the time. And I was like, ugh.
But, like, standard.
I know.
Classic.
For real.
But then also, like, on Lando's first lap, he was also right there with him. Like, he was on the pace too.
Yes.
And then he went off and lost the lap.
I know.
But,
so there were a few, like, bad final laps, basically. Like, obviously, Lando not looking so great on his final lap and then made a mistake. So that kind of screwed him over. Charles had a terrible final lap. So I swear, Isaac just kind of like had it in.
He was there.
Dude, I know.
He was on the pace.
He was on the pace. It was looking good. And I think Isaac just like had it in for the 2024 Ferrari team. Because he... obviously a joke. But like he obviously impeded Sainz and then it wasn't really impeding on Charles. I think Charles was just frustrated. And maybe there was a bit of getting caught up in his dirty air, but...
It was that, I think. Like, Isaac was not in the way.
No.
He just met him at a bad spot on the track, I think.
Exactly. It was
Charles
just unfortunate.
was just, like, a bit frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, no, like...
I think he was lucky not to put in the wall. He was heading straight for the wall when he first, like, wobbled. I was like, oh! And then it was fine. But, yes, it did very much screw up a flyer of a lap that he was on.
Yep.
Which was unfortunate.
Yeah, I was like, wow. I thought he was finally in the mix because at one point there, it did look like we had literally how many, like 5 or 6 drivers in the mix for pole.
Yeah.
Like both McLarens, George, Max, and Charles, and Kimi
Yeah.
was flying as well.
Yeah.
So
No, totally.
yeah, at one point I was like, well, this is fun, and then Lando fucked it, then Charles fucked it.
Yeah.
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 And Oscar's second lap wasn't so good either.
It wasn't, yeah.
But yeah, McLaren opted to go on the soft tyre, whereas Max and George opted to go on the medium,
I know.
which turned out to be the right move because they lined up on the front row, and that was a fucking tantalizing prospect.
Yes, agree. It was so good. And, like, George's quali lap was really good. Like, he said that really well.
He loves a pole in Canada.
He really does. And he was so funny in his interview when he got pole.
I was like, George, please.
I know, saying, you know, he's got a few more points on his super license to play with, you know, coming into turn 1 on the race. I was like, oh my God, the English breakfast tea is gravy.
Yeah. I was like, that's really cheeky. That's fucking cheeky.
And like, I think
funny
at the time,
though, really funny.
Totally, so funny. And at the time, I think Max was actually kind of fine with it. But then the problem was he got asked about it over and over and over again by journalists after quali, to the point that he actually just got kind of shitty, like, with them. And so I think he's been misconstrued as being pissed at the comment, and I think he was actually just pissed at journalists, like, poking and prodding, like, about
But he's
the
always
comment.
pissed at journalists. Like, why are people taking this the wrong way?
I know.
He's always just pissed at the journalists.
Yeah, like, I don't think he actually cared about what George said. In fact, he probably found it kind of funny. But...
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like, he knows. He knows he's on 11 penalty points. You know, like...
Totally.
It was funny that George just said that.
I know.
Anyways.
So ridiculous. Anyways. So,
That
I
was
think that
kinda
was quali. Yeah. So, the race.
Yes.
Well, first of all, Liam, before we, you know, lights out,
Yes.
Liam and Pierre both start in the pit lane, taking a new power unit, which didn't quite work out for Liam. But is what it is. I think they basically retired him because they were like, this is a new power unit and whatever's wrong with it, we can't risk, like, making it worse.
Yeah, literally. But he was already, like, not having a good time. He was already running in last, so...
I know. So...
And, like, when you're already running it, like, if he's running in the points, you might be like, well, let's just hope the power unit's fine and take the points.
Yeah.
But when he's already running in last, it's not worth risking it.
Absolutely
But
not.
anyway, the race start, with all the hype up, Max and George front row, George just was like, pow! He was literally, like, had such a good start.
For real.
Like, perfect start. And Max... reaction time was like not nearly as close to George's, like
No.
And Max is normally a good one for a good start time reaction, but not today. But
No,
also
100%.
Kimi, like, that was a pretty good move to stick that on Oscar.
An amazing move by Kimi. And honestly, like, that's what got him on the podium, like, at the end. Because it ended up being, once again, so hard to overtake.
It was just
with
like
everyone's
a DRS
dirty
train.
air. Yeah, like, none of the drivers could get close enough for anything to happen. So, yeah, it, like, Kimi getting past right at the start ultimately got him on the podium, which was amazing.
Did. And yeah, I'm so happy that Kimi was on the podium. I was like, this is great. I at least have something to be happy about in this race.
I know.
But I was, at the time that he overtook, I still thought that there was a high chance that Oscar would get him back.
Yes.
Like, at that point in time, I was like, Oscar will get him.
And because it was like,
fine.
oh, it's Oscar being smart, like, he's just not going to risk, like, any damage to his car.
Crash.
Like, he's comfortably, you know, championship lead, like, just be safe. So, at the time, 100% that's what I thought too. Like, he'll just bide his time and then get Kimi back. But... was not to be.
Not to be. I mean, he maybe could have if he didn't have Lando up his ass.
Yes.
Like, later. But
Yeah, that was not
Anyways.
great. Yeah, not to mention all
We
the
all saw
traffic
what
they had to
happened
like
there.
navigate through. But
Oh
yeah,
my God.
we'll
Yeah,
get there.
Oscar got done by some of the traffic.
Honestly, for real, it was bad. But coming back to lap 1, Alex went for a big old adventure into the grass.
Yeah.
Trying to overtake Colapinto, and yeah, he got some airtime.
He did.
on that adventure out.
Yeah.
And
My
thankfully
housemate
his
was
car
like,
stayed
did he
together.
just cut the corner? My housemate was like, did he just cut the corner? That's kind of iconic. I was like, well,
It happens.
well. I was like, we didn't mean to. He wouldn't have wanted to do that.
No.
She's like, why isn't it faster? I was like,
Yeah. And
Ultimately,
then he had to he lost like 2 or 3 places at that point.
Yeah.
In time, like giving the place back.
Yeah.
So not ideal.
anyways. Also, Hamilton on one of the starting laps, I don't know if it was the first lap, but early on, he ended up with damage because he hit a groundhog.
I know. So Canadian. R.I.P.
R.I.P. groundhog.
Yeah. I know.
It
That was
happens.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
But all the cars pretty much settled out into their usual 1.5 second gap, as per the dirty air.
Yes.
And then around like lap 13, that was when Max was like kind of the first one to pit, which then
Yeah, it was an early
triggered-
stop too.
It was a very early stop. He was on mediums, but it triggered basically like all the front runners that were
Everyone.
on mediums to come into the pits. And I thought it was really funny when Lewis was trying to like go into the pits. Lando was like also trying to overtake him at the same time. And it was just like, no, just move. Like, I'm getting out of your way. Like, just give me a second.
Yeah. Lewis was like, he
wait.
needs like a blinker. He
Yeah,
needs a fucking
literally.
indicator to be like, I'm going into the pits. Stop trying to like go around the outside because I'm trying to box. I'm trying to get out of your way.
Yeah.
He literally needs
Oh
an
my
indicator.
God. A pit indicator would be so funny. I would love that.
That would be really funny. Yeah. That'd be like, he didn't indicate.
Yeah.
That's me. When people are going around roundabouts and they don't indicate, I'm like, where are you going?
Yeah, I hate that. Anyway.
Yeah. Like, can I drive, please? Anyways. And then like when Lando was out ahead on his hard tires, that's when I was like, could someone please have an engine failure in the middle of the track?
Yeah.
That would be really, really helpful.
I know. Yes.
But then Alex Albon had an engine failure later and just drove straight into the fucking
he
runoff.
did.
Like straight
Well,
into the escape road.
Yeah. Well, Alex had a terrible race. So
Yeah.
around like lap 20, I think it was, Albon was like totally like losing so much time to the cars behind, and he lost like 3 places in like very rapid
Well, he was managing an
succession.
issue. Yeah, he was managing
Yeah.
an issue from like the start, which could have actually been triggered by his excursion off into the grass.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was like, he'd been calling for his team to like box him, and I think they hadn't. So he was getting really frustrated down the radio. And then 3 cars, including Carlos, his teammate, like go past him so quickly. And then he's like continuing to like get frustrated on the radio, and then more and more cars are just passing him. And I'm like, oh, like he's totally just been hung out to dry, like on those
Yeah, he's like, I've had
totally
enough.
degraded.
If you
medium
won't box me.
tires. Literally, because they left him out on mediums for like 20 laps at least.
Yeah.
Like,
But the thing is, they didn't stop him. They left him out so long that he was getting passed, and then they still didn't pit him like late enough to do a 1-stop.
yeah.
So it's like, what was the point of that?
What was the point?
It's like, if you're
I
going to
know.
leave him out that long, save the time, like try and save the time by doing a 1-stop. But
Yeah.
even by that point, he's lost so much ground that it probably wouldn't have even benefited him anyway. But
I know.
like, Williams did not so much slay with that one.
No.
But yeah,
Unfortunately.
Carlos, they slayed with Carlos, but it's like you can't just do the same strategy when you've got one car on a hard and one car on a medium.
I know.
Like, it doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work that way. I know.
Anyways.
But yes, Carlos, I think it was Carlos, Ocon, and Yuki. The 3 of them basically did like the whole race on hards,
Yeah.
which was incredible. I was very impressed.
And it turned out very well.
It did. It really worked out for them. And then, so yeah, like Albon was having his problems, and then Max was again the first one to come in for his like second stop. And he managed to like stay ahead of Kimi, because Kimi kind of like went in to cover off like,
Yeah.
cover off that stop. But he managed to like just stay ahead, which was good.
That was a
for
bit
him.
fun on pit exit.
It was. And then shortly after that, Albon had his DNF with his power issue.
Yeah. But yeah, he pulled off into the perfect spot and there was like a brief yellow flag and then it was fine.
Yes.
But I was like, can we have some fun? Can we have a safety car? Nothing's happening.
I know.
I want to see what's going on.
I
I think at that point, it would have benefited the McLarens and Charles, if I
Yes.
remember correctly.
Yes,
so I was
I
like,
think
that's
so.
fine.
I know. I was like, please.
McLaren also at one point, were asking Oscar if he could take his tyres to the end. Like, they were trying to one-stop it
Oh, yeah.
in the second stint. And he was like, no.
No, yeah. Not even
He
a
was
little
like,
bit.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. He was like, there's like 30 laps to go and I've already got graining.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I don't get is, like, sometimes you get drivers say, like, oh, like, the tyres degraded and then they came back to me. Which I assume is basically
Yeah.
just, like, all the blisters and stuff, like, all get ripped off and you're left
Disappear.
with, like, the
Yeah.
next, like,
The
like,
next
layer of tyre.
Yeah.
I assume that's how it works.
Yeah, that's what I assumed as well.
Yeah, but...
That's like kind of what would make the most sense. And then also we had the incident of Stroll and Gasly,
yes.
where, Stroll pushed off Gasly
Mm-hmm.
and got a 10-second penalty. There's not really much to say about it. He pushed him off and he got his penalty.
Yeah, that was what it was. Then around lap 56, Lawson retired from the race as well with his power unit issue. And I was like, I think Lando had just come in for his second stop. And I was like, oh my God, if there's a safety car, like, that sucks for Lando. He's just pitted. But
it
there
would be
wasn't a safety
classic
car.
a little bit.
It would be.
Yeah.
But there was not a safety car because the race was boring. So
Yeah.
everyone just
And
carried
also,
on.
like, Charles, almost every time he pitted, was, like, not happy with what Ferrari did.
I know.
Every single time. He was like, no, I don't like this. And then they would, like, do something else. And he was like, what the fuck, guys?
I know.
And
I
was
think
like,
he was very
"Guys."
fair in his, like, annoyance with the team because, like, by putting him on hards and then hards again, they're just totally, like,
They
cutting
had
themselves
committing
off
to the two-stop.
Yeah, to any possibility. Like, I think it was kind of a silly decision and, like, obviously hindsight's a
think
bitch,
so.
but yeah, I think it was silly
Yeah,
to
but,
put
like,
him.
even if it was silly because they should have put him on mediums for the second stint just in case there was a safety car.
Exactly.
Because then they could have gone on hards till the end. Whereas if there was a safety car too early to go to the ends on mediums because the mediums were degrading pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like, if there'd been a safety car, imagine if there was a safety car like 10 laps into his hard stint.
Yeah. Like, what are you going
Then
to do?
what?
Nothing. Yeah.
Probably stay out and keep track position.
Yeah.
Or you could box on mediums and, like, try and go to the end, but then you might end up doing a 3-stop. But
Yeah. I know. It was just
anyways.
silly. So,
But
good
on
Ferrari
that last
decision-making.
stint, I mean, last time they put him on hard tyres when it was, like, almost full wets weather. So
True.
it's better
So,
than doing that.
they've improved a little bit.
There were people on full wets and they put Charles on a hard tyre last year.
That was good.
Anyways, on that last stint is when Lando started really flying.
Yes. Yes.
He was cooking.
For sure. He was doing really well. And, like, the last...
Yes.
Yeah, that last, like, 10 to 15 laps was just very interesting.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, Oscar kind of got screwed by the back markers as he was, like, trying to navigate his way through there. And then that allowed Lando to obviously catch him right up. And, like, it ended up being, like, the gap between Oscar and Kimi was, like, pretty small already. And then there was, like, a bigger gap to Lando. And then because of all the back markers, like, that just totally reversed. And Kimi was able to drive off. And Oscar, you know, got stuck with Lando, like, right behind them. And then we finally got the McLaren battle that we were waiting for. That I was waiting for. That you were hoping would never come.
I'm happy that we've gone 10 races before it happened, to be fair.
So fair. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
But, yeah, like, I hoped that there was a chance that when Oscar didn't have DRS, Lando, I thought, was clearly the faster car.
Yeah.
And I hoped that Oscar just, like, they would just, like, not Because as I've said this so many times, I don't really mind who finishes ahead, just as long as they're fine. Like, as long as we don't crash into each other. So I was like, Lando's clearly faster. Oscar's lost DRS. If the track was an easier to overtake track, he would have got him, I think, earlier.
Yeah.
Like when Oscar didn't have the DRS.
Yeah.
But just because of the nature of the track, like that second straight, like, because you kind of get a bit of a double DRS. Like there's one straight, chicane, next straight. Like if the second straight is just that tiny bit too short to do anything with.
Yeah.
Like it's just, like you can't really like close up on the first straight and then overtake on the second straight, because the second straight isn't long enough.
Yeah.
So
no, 100%.
Yeah, so that was a bit tricky. And then, Oscar caught up the back of Kimi, and then we had DRS and DRS. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. We've got DRS and DRS. Maybe we'll probably just finish like this now, like DRS train.
Yeah.
I think I was like, Oscar's too preoccupied with Lando to do much overtaking on Kimi.
Yeah.
And they maybe could have worked together to like try and both get Kimi.
Yeah.
But that's not. Yeah. I think like no, like I think that there are. Yeah, McLaren are just too scared to like do anything.
Well, they don't need to do anything. Bottom line, they're so far ahead in the constructors, and like let them battle it out.
Yeah, it's
That's
good
fine.
that they let them race.
100%.
There also like could have been the opportunity, and I think that they just like they would never, like as you said, they don't really need to.
Yeah.
But they could have been like, Lando, don't attack. Let's both overtake Kimi, and then you can fight it out.
Yeah. I think the problem was they were running out of laps for them to both overtake as well.
Yeah,
you know?
bro, actually so fair. Literally, they fucking crashed into each other on the third last lap. I was like, guys, come on.
Yeah. So before they crashed, though, Lando pulled an amazing move coming into the hairpin to go around Oscar. That was brilliant. I was
But that's
like,
kind of what he needed to do.
He had to.
Because he needed to take him by surprise a little bit.
Totally.
And do something that he wouldn't kind of be expecting. And the battle up until that point was great. Like that move from Lando was amazing.
Yeah.
Oscar stuck it round, like just stuck with him, like the wheel to wheel, and they both DRS popped open, and I was like, fuck me, what the hell? I was like, ah. And then Lando kind of backed out into the chicane as he needed to, because they were gonna fucking crash.
Yeah.
So he let Oscar stay ahead through the chicane, and then I think because probably it was just like the adrenaline would have been up, and he thought he saw a gap, and because he got ahead briefly and then lost it again, and he knew that he was running out of time, obviously, to get past.
Yeah.
So, and he wanted to probably do what Oscar wouldn't be expecting and go to the inside where there wasn't much space, but there was no space.
There was half a car gap at most. Unfortunately,
there was no space.
Yeah.
And
so,
it also like it was the smallest brush against Oscar's car was enough for his front wing to say goodbye.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And his front suspension to be like,
see you later.
Though.
I know.
I
feel
think
like that was kind of happening all weekend. Like almost like the smallest taps around here seemed to create like massive problems. Whether it was with the wall or other drivers. Like I feel like I'm so used to the cars being so robust now.
Yeah.
Like,
that's kind of what I thought. I was like, how was his front wing like just yeeted itself into another fucking dimension from like the smallest tap? Like, and even Oscar was like, oh yeah, like I covered the inside and then I felt a small bump and then he was gone. I was like, oh. He was like, I felt like a small hit. He was like,
and it was see you later.
Yeah.
I know, crazy. But
and then that was that. And he was immediately on the radio like 100% my fault. I'm so sorry. Like
totally. Which
that was
true,
really dumb.
and it was
like that was really
good
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like also I feel like if you're going to get anyone that's happy to blame themselves, it's Lando.
Yeah, totally. He's unlikely to be like, oh, he just drove into me. Like, and like, I mean, he didn't anyway.
He did do that last year with Max.
Yeah.
Like, he will do it when it's necessary, but if you're going to have someone that's all, like, even if it maybe wasn't their fault, if it's half-half, that's going to claim it as their fault, it's probably Lando.
Yeah. But this
he's just
was
like,
very much just fully his fault.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like,
Which is why I'm kind of like,
yeah,
it's good in a sense because it's clear it's his fault. He knows it's his fault. There's no like fallout.
100%. No, completely
So
agree.
in that circumstance, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
If it had to happen, this is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And both cars didn't crash out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for the race win. Kind of what I was saying earlier. Like,
Exactly.
not for the race win. One car still finished.
Yep. It was okay.
It's okay. And also,
Agree.
like, I was a little bit worried about the World Championship, though, with Max finishing second. I was like, what's that going to do with Lando's DNF?
Yeah.
Fucking nothing.
Nothing.
After what happened to him in last week in Spain with the penalty
Yeah.
to finish 10th
Yeah.
and only get 1 point, it kind of just like counteracted that in a way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fine.
Yes.
But I was a bit like, because Oscar didn't get that many points, but I was more worried about Max catching up Lando
Yes.
from finishing second.
For sure.
But yeah, obviously, then the crash as well was like almost identical to the Hamilton Button crash in
it
2011.
was. Yeah. I heard people talking
It was
about this.
the same.
Yeah.
Because I heard people saying that, and obviously I was 10 years old in 2011. I was not. I was not watching the Canadian Grand Prix.
No.
And I looked it up because I was like, you know how people like compare things, and then it's like, not really. It's the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's literally exactly the same.
Crazy.
And I was like, wow. And that was for McLaren as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, fully teammate crash in the
Yeah.
same spot on the same track
Wow.
14 years later.
There you
I
go.
was like, damn.
That is crazy.
Anyways, and yeah. But anyway, we finished under safety car.
We did. We did.
And everyone was being investigated.
Yes. So
After.
obviously, just quickly on the safety car, because
Yes.
George, like, basically tried to brake check Max, and Max kind of went past him a little bit,
Yeah.
which you're not allowed to do under the safety car. And
Yeah.
the theory is that, like, George was trying to, like, goad Max into doing something that would get him to, like, lose his, final
Yeah.
penalty point, which I just don't think is true. Like, I think there was maybe a level of gamesmanship to it and a little bit of, like, psyching out, but I don't think that there was, like, any intent of, like,
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
he was
try and get him
actually
a race
trying.
ban.
No. I think George was just like slowing down, like keeping heat in the tires. But like, even though they didn't really need to, because it was very obviously going to finish under safety car.
Exactly. And, like, trying to do something like that with Max, like, the risk is just so not worth the reward. Like, imagine if
And
you'd
especially
taken...
for the race win.
Exactly.
Like you
if you'd
have the
taken
race win
yourself
in the
out.
bag.
Literally. Crazy.
It's in the bag.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he thought in Spa too. But anyway.
I know.
Um,
So then because
But
of that,
George-
after the race...
yeah, sorry, you go.
Sorry, yeah. It's so much harder when
I know.
there's an internet delay. But yeah, because of that, what George did, Red Bull, after the race, then protested George's win,
Yeah.
claiming he should get a penalty, and that would obviously give Max the win. And I don't think that Red Bull even thought that that would be successful. I think it was just like
Yeah.
a dot your I's, cross your T's exercise.
Yeah, just see what they can do. You don't know if you don't try.
Exactly. And they were denied, obviously. So,
Yes. George as well. We didn't even talk about George because often when people just disappear, Oscar's done it so many times this year, they just disappear out the front and nothing happens.
Yep.
But he slayed.
he did.
There was
he
a
drove
point in
great
time-
race.
There was a point in time later in the race where Max was kind of catching him, but then it
Yes.
kind of just looked like George was managing because then George seemed to just put his foot down and
Yeah.
the gap disappeared.
I
I mean,
think
like
so.
the gap, yeah, him being like, yeah. But there was a point in time where I was like,
Yeah.
are we going to get a battle at the front here?
Yeah.
Like, as you say, those last like 15 or so laps, like the top 5 were all like within a second and a half of each other, like dipping in and out of DRS. And I was like,
yeah. What's going to happen? I know.
yeah, so that would have been fun, but whatever.
But yes. And then...
And also, yeah, Kimmy on the podium.
I know. and it was George was really sweet. Like when he got out of the
yeah.
car and hugged him, gave him a congrats on the radio, and then like on the podium, like stepping down to like give him a hug. It was just such like big brother behavior. Loved it.
Yeah, it was super sweet. And I was actually thinking that for Kimi. I was like, it's so nice for his first podium. I think anyone would have been like super excited for him, but like to be that up there with his teammate is really nice.
So sweet. Bono was like so proud, like looking at like a little proud dad. It was so cute.
Literally. I know. But like it was only a matter of time before Kimi got up on the podium, realistically.
Yes. But I mean, to do it in your first 10 races, you've had a pole position, sprint pole, and now a podium.
A podium.
Insane. In your
So
first
good.
10 races. Crazy.
Yeah. So good. I mean, like he still is having like a very rookie season.
For sure.
In terms of inconsistency, but to be expected. There's also a story potentially unfolding about reliability issues of the Mercedes power unit, because in the past few weeks, we had Kimi's cutout in Imola, we had George's cutout in Monaco, we had Fernando Alonso's cutout in Monaco, we had Kimi's again in Spain, and then we've just had Albon's.
Yeah.
All Mercedes power units.
So
5
true.
in the last few races. So it makes me a little nervous as a McLaren fan with a Mercedes power unit.
Yeah. Also is like, they're meant to be the ones that kind of have their shit together, and like why they're predicted to do well for next year is like the fact that, I mean, obviously your engine power unit, like but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's interesting.
It's just a bit, I don't think it's a story yet, but
Could be.
if it continues, or if it happens to a McLaren, like realistically, it's going to be a story once it costs a McLaren a race win.
Yes.
But that's just a bit something to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
there as well. And the race director was investigating like everyone for safety car infringements, but I don't think anything happened.
I don't think anyone got anything after the race.
Yeah.
But yeah, the top
And
6 or something were all like under investigation.
Yeah. So ended up in the points, just some people I want to point out in there. Carlos Sainz.
Yep.
With a point after starting all the way back there.
Yep.
He was a little bit lucky because of Lando's crash.
Yes.
He probably wouldn't have the point otherwise. But Hülkenberg, back-to-back points.
Yes.
Alonso, back-to-back points.
So good. I mean, I was very happy to see
And
Hülkenberg
Ocon.
points. Yeah.
Yeah. Ocon back in the points.
Yeah. Kind of crazy. I
So
know
just
one
a
of my
little bit of shout out to them.
I know one of my predictions was there would be at least 7 different teams in the top 10, and there was 8. So yeah, kind of fun. Weird that such a boring race produced such crazy results as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm like I can't even think of like I don't know when Hülkenberg made up all those places.
Yeah, like how did you get there? You just kind of
Didn't see that.
Into the points.
Yeah, you just spawned into the points from starting like 15th. So he kind of cooked. I didn't really see anything. We didn't see him.
No.
But he clearly was doing shit.
He was there. Yeah.
He was there. All right, should we get into some awards? Do you have anything else to say?
The only thing I'll say is I was very happy that George hit the tee. Right.
Oh my God, yes.
When he got out of the car, that was very important.
Bow. He hit it in 2 directions too. He was like, I'll do it for these cameras and I'll do it for these cameras.
I love that. Little beaver.
He's like, I've got you all covered. Don't worry, you get your T-pose publication, no stress.
And then I also thought it was really funny in the cool down room, Kimi joking about like which McLaren he was like wanting to give the slipstream to when they were like going wheel to wheel. He was like, do I go right? Do I go left? I don't know.
Do I go left? Yeah, that was funny.
Like, I think you were just driving for your life to make sure they didn't overtake you, but sure.
They didn't overtake you, yeah. Yeah. Also, like, I love when George wins a race, his little hop that he does on the podium.
I know.
You know when he wins a race and when they get the trophy, they'll often like put it up in the air and be like, yay. He always does this goofy little like, this little like jump. He looks like a child and it's really so funny.
I know. I love it. But yeah,
I
that's
love
all
when
I had
George
to
wins a
say.
race. There's just so many fun things attached to George winning races.
Yeah, I was waiting for like another silly radio of like Yabba Dabba Doo or something, but it didn't come.
But I think probably because he led from like start to finish. It wasn't like
Yeah.
Yabba Dabba Doo came out when he won Austria.
Yes.
Which is where we're off to next.
Unexpectedly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say about the race before we get into our awards is it was the first time this season that there was not a McLaren on the podium.
Boo.
Yeah, unfortunate, but bound to happen.
They're
probably
so far
at some
ahead.
point. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So,
it doesn't matter.
Biggest winners. Who were your biggest winners?
Mercedes.
Yes, correct.
Both drivers, but Kimi's first podium is a massive win.
Yes.
So Mercedes for the 1-3, the double podium, really great. My housemate was even like, "Why are Mercedes so good?" I was like, "This is not normal."
Yeah, couldn't tell you.
She's like, "Why are they so good?" I was like, "Well, they're actually well."
Yeah, there's a lot of history behind that question.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not a simple answer. Anyway, so Mercedes, Hulkenberg back-to-back points, as I just mentioned, is a massive win.
Agreed.
And yeah, I just kind of had that last gaggle of people in the points.
Yeah, so fair. I also had Max because he was able to make inroads on both Oscar and Lando in the drivers.
Yeah.
So that, especially after kind of the pain of Spain,
Yes.
he, I think, would have been very appreciative of that. Biggest losers, who did you have?
Lando. I feel like that is just like the biggest loser.
Yeah.
I also had Isaac Hadjar because he finished second last on track.
Oh, I didn't even clock that.
And yeah, I just feel like he's been doing so well. I don't really, again, know so much what happened to him.
Yeah.
But he finished second last on track. It could have been an RB strategy fuck up.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't be surprised by. But yeah, just because of how well he's been doing.
Yeah, interesting.
To finish second last on track is a bit of an L.
Yeah, that is a bit of an L.
It's okay.
Yeah. I obviously had Lando and like just McLaren and like Oscar a little bit too, just like, you know, not your best.
Yeah, not being on the podium.
Yeah. But also Alex Albon, just terrible, painful race for him. Even though like he DNF'd, like just as he was driving, it
wasn't going well.
Yeah, that would have been the most painful race, just having car after car after car overtake you. So that would have been rough. Biggest meme?
I have a few, wait.
Stunning. I mean, one of mine was George saying that he had more penalty points to play with than Max after he got pole.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Hilarious. And then another one that I had while you're finding yours is, you know that like anime meme where the guy's like looking at the butterfly and he's like, is this? And it's like something else. So it was like that, but it's like, is this a gap? And it was like the guy's like Lando. It's like half a car's width of grass. Like, no, it's not.
No, it's not. Well, I'm really pissed off because my fucking camera roll is not loading. You know how like, because I normally screenshot them on my phone and then they just pop up on my iPad and my camera roll.
Oh, it hasn't like synced?
No.
So here are Evie's memes.
Here are my memes because they didn't sync to my iPad.
Yes.
Peruse. I can't remember what they are. I hope they're funny. I do kind of remember not seeing any that I was super excited about. Like I was just kind of like, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, well there was not a lot that happened, so anyway.
Exactly. Not much to make memes out of.
Yes. Did you have a useless stat?
I don't have a useless stat.
That's okay. I had somewhat of a useless stat, but once again, it was a bit of like a history lesson. And it was about the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix.
Yes.
And the fact that it was the longest Grand Prix in history, in modern Formula 1 history. It went for just over 4 hours, which is kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
Basically, there was like torrential rain. There were 6 different safety cars. And there was a 2-hour red flag in the middle of it because of the like rain.
Yeah.
So Ferrari obviously would have been on hards. And and it all came down to the last lap where Jenson Button overtook Sebastian Vettel for the win. So
Yeah, and
after all that...
he didn't even lead a single lap. He just overtook on the last lap and won the race.
4 hours later, bro just overtakes on the last lap. Criminal.
Fucking crazy. I want to watch that race. I'm going to find it in my spare time.
Maybe. Well, you'll need 4 hours.
That's fine. I've got 4 hours. I can find 4 hours.
Fair.
Maybe if I get sick or if I'm hungover or something, that will be what I do.
I guess you can cut it down by like skipping through the red flag. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm not watching a 2-hour red flag from 2011.
Anyways, what was your favourite moment of the race?
Of the race, no. No highlights.
Fair.
But of the weekend, I loved the cheers when Kimi fucking got out of the car and when he came out onto the podium, just how excited everyone was about that. Like, the crowd was so loud when Kimi came out onto the podium.
Yes.
And I just thought that was, like, super cute.
Yeah.
So, like, I just think, like, the Kimi podium was my favourite. Favorite thing.
Love. Yeah. I loved that. My favourite moment, obviously, was the McLaren battle. Not because Lando got wiped out, but it was like we were waiting for this, and it finally came, and it was good. So, and in a race where literally nothing happened, that was like actually enjoyable
a bit of
to
excitement.
watch. Exactly. So yeah, that was that. Driver of the day, who did you have?
I agree with the people. I agreed with the people.
Agree.
Kimi.
Same. I had Kimi as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Me, you, and the people are all in
sync. Nice.
Perfect.
But I think
we're
that's
never
it.
in sync with the people.
Yeah. So we're off to
Silly
Austria.
Surprise.
Huh? Oh my God, silly
Silly
surprise. I totally
surprise?
forgot about silly surprise. What was your silliest
What's your
surprise?
silliest surprise? Oh, should I silly surprise or you? You can silly surprise.
I forgot about it. So you say it and I'll think of it.
Well, I had Mercedes double podium as my silly surprise because I was not expecting that.
Fair. You know, actually, my silly surprise was the fact that the race was kind of dull. I really thought that it was going to deliver a banger, especially after all the excitement of the practice sessions and quali. I was very surprised at the fact
And last year?
Yeah, and last year. I was very surprised at the fact that the race kind of had me yawning. So...
yeah.
Kind of a sad surprise rather than a silly surprise, but, you know.
Yeah. Sad. But yeah. Anyways, as you said, we're off to Austria.
Yes.
Bit of a controversial one last year.
Yes.
The podium was George, Oscar, and Carlos.
Yes.
Because Lando and Max ding-donged.
They did
quite
ding-dong.
dramatically.
Yes.
But yeah, it was that kind of... It was the start, I'd say, of the Lando and Max beef. Well, not beef, but like them battling last year on track.
Yes.
Because it was just Lando definitely had the pace to overtake and Max was becoming more and more desperate to keep his position.
Yeah.
And did the Max Verstappen dive bomb push you off the track? If you overtake anyway, you're going to get a penalty for overtaking off the track. If you don't let me keep the position, we're going to crash.
Yes, for sure.
Or you can just back off and let me keep the position.
Correct.
Which is what he hopes for.
Yes.
So, but yeah, then George cruised on through Stephen Bradbury.
For real.
And won the race, yabba dabba doo. And
he did.
There was almost a point in time where Oscar, that could have been Oscar's first win. Like, Oscar was, remember the top three? They finished like super close together.
That's right. I do remember that. Yeah.
And it was a really fun podium. I remember talking about it because at that point in time, those three, obviously how times have changed, but those three were like kind of the less famous like second drivers of the team.
Yes.
Like George to Lewis, Oscar at that point to Lando, and Carlos to Charles. Like kind of the...
It was
a
the
bit
second
of like
driver's
podium.
podium. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really cute.
Yes.
But now, obviously, like, George's first driver. Oscar's leading the world championship over his teammate, and Carlos is at Williams. But yeah, I remember that podium was really fun. And
Yeah, true. I'd forgotten about
Yeah.
that. Love. Well, it's a fun track.
Yes, short track.
Hopefully, short track. Lots of track limits issues in the past, so we'll see how that goes
5-second
this year.
penalty for Ocon.
For real. So we'll see how it all goes. But I mean, you got to think Max is in with a solid shot.
Red Bull ring.
Yes, surely.
There'll be a lot of orange.
A lot of orange.
Yes. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, they kind of fixed the track limits a little bit last year. Like they made it better.
Yes, they put
But they didn't.
they like extended the white line. I think put a bit more like gravel traps in to avoid, to discourage drivers from sending it around the corner.
But we still did have a few last year.
We did.
And we had a sprint there last year. Did we?
I don't think so.
Am I going insane? I don't know. I might be fucking bugging. I swear we had a sprint there.
Maybe.
And the McLarens were hunting Max. Am I going crazy?
We did. You're so right.
We did. And Oscar, I remember it. Oscar and Lando were like hunting down Max and they didn't get him.
Yeah,
they were, like,
Max
working
won,
together
then
to try and
Oscar,
get
then
him.
Lando. You're right.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at your
God,
memory.
I'm good.
She's really good. I'm like, once a
can't
weekend's
remember,
done,
like-
I'm like, whew. We film the pod and I just forget everything that happened.
You're like, a clean slate.
Yeah,
Anyways, it was a fun race last year.
it was. So,
Even
yes.
though Lando DNF'd, but it's okay.
Yes. So hopefully that won't happen again. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, fuck.
But I think
It's
that's
not
it.
3 p.m.
Oh. I think it's like
so
11
excited.
p.m. my time. So,
Yeah, it'll be back to European time for you.
yes.
Should I go? I can't go. It'll be fun though. Fly over to Austria. It's a
Silverstone's
beautiful
right around the
setting.
corner.
I really want to go to Silverstone, but it's like £300. So.
Maybe not. in
And
the
also
budget.
Sam Fender's playing. Sam Fender's playing at Silverstone. On the Thursday though. So I'm like, I was actually tempted to buy a Thursday ticket and just fuck off there on the Thursday and go see Sam Fender.
I'm invalid.
Oh, I love Sam Fender, if anyone didn't know that. Very much. Geordie King.
Like,
Anyways, I
anyways,
digress.
I think that's it.
Well, if you're listening on an app, give us a 5-star review because it really helps us out. And if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.